Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Scott McGann with the FalmouthHealth Department doing our weekly COVID-19 update for June 10th, 2022. Our website is falmouthma.gov. Our email is health@falmouthma.gov. Our phone number is 508-495-7485. So a similar week to last week. That jumped them around. So 4,844 cases of COVID. These are PCR tests. So I think last week was 65. We're at 69 confirmed PCR for that 7-day. Probables, these are tests that are not home tests. These are the ones you'd get from a proctor, somebody doing a test site such as, Convenient MD. There was 7, there was 21 last week. This does not count home tests, which are going to be a multiplier. It could be 2, 3, or more times more cases. These are PCR, so people that would get a PCR might be people in long-term care, people that are working in healthcare, people that go in for procedures, people that would rather have the accuracy of a PCR test. Those are the individuals. We've been averaging close to 2,000 or so per week, so we still do quite a bit of that. And I think a lot of it might be routine. Our 14-day incidence rate is 34.6. It was 40.3, so it's still on the high side. A little bit of delay in this data comes from the 22nd of May to the 4th of June, but still, didn't drop quite as much as I would hope. Our positivity is almost the same, a little bit higher, 9.73 from 9.49. So a very similar week. If you look at our case count weekly chart, we were about 4 or so weeks from the peak we sort of had. There is about 3 weeks. The last 3 weeks have been relatively stable. I was thinking we'd start seeing a drop by now with the weather and so forth, but we're seeing it sort of, maybe that's sort of where it's static right now for a little bit. So that's kind of where we're at. You can see that we're on an upward trajectory, but not. The dots, when they're spread out, indicate they're a large gain, so we're not gaining a lot, but we are still on an upward trend. The flatter this line, the more likely, the better it is. As far as what good news is that CDC, based on community level of transmission, there's nothing at the state, so we use the CDC chart, has dropped us from the high, Barnstable County, this is by county, to the medium category from high, because our case rate dropped under 200. I told you last week, if you were listening, we're right at the cusp that we might. And 191 brings us below 200, so we can go into the medium. And what kept us from going to low was the 11.4 new admissions to the hospital, COVID-19 admissions per 100,000 population. We're at 11.4, you need to be less than 10. So if that number drops next week and we stay under 200, you could see us go green quick. Or not, but that's kind of where we're at. So things are trending somewhat downward, and I'll talk about that in a second. Again, if you're immune compromised, you need to take things differently than if you're not. If you're taking care of immune compromised, or you work at a facility or a place that you deal with people that are highly immune compromised, face coverings should be considered much more frequently and much more often than those that may not. And so each individual has to make up their own decisions at this point. Hospitalizations, Barnstable County, all these showing trends on the far right on a downward trend over the last few weeks in terms of hospitalizations and ICU beds used and so forth. Statewide, last week I think it was about 2,500, and it's about 2,000, so last Thursday and this Thursday. Positivity starting to drop down a bit. The 7-day average for this particular time frame is 6.38. There's still people that can die from it. Some are vaxxed. Some may be very, very elderly or very weak in the immune system. Those numbers are sort of, on the downward trend. You can see that with these weekly trends. You see downward and downward and downward, which is good. When you look at MWRA, this is a really tough chart to see, so I'll break it down in the next chart. There is a downward trend. On the left-hand side is the south region for the MWRA is the waste for inside Boston, inside of 128. It's the sewage treatment. They measure viral DNA. You can see a downward trend both in the northern region and in the southern region, which is good. So you're seeing it lowering a bit. So we hope that continues. Looking at our incidence rate among Barnstable County, you can see that we were the highest, and we don't normally be the highest. We're usually in the middle of the pack. You see that we're highest, so we're having part of it, is we have a few long-term care that might push this a little bit, but that's not the main reason. We still just have quite a few cases out there relative to our peers. So our incidence rate is on the higher side for the state and also for the county. And, there's an ebb and flow to this. For some reason, it's our turn to stay high, and that's kind of where we're at. Our positivity is still also, it looks like we were third highest for percent positivity. As far as being vaccinated, this is a very stable chart. Each week I do update it, but it's like 1.6% of breakthrough cases, so you've been vaccinated, and if you get COVID, the hospitalization rate's been staying right at that 1.6. So that's good, and the death rate's always been less than 1%. It's been around 0.5%. So it tells you that the vaccine is working. Booster doses, nothing's changed with booster doses. If you're over 50, you can get a second booster if it's been at least 4 months after your first booster. And if you're between 12 and 18, certain medical conditions, and 18 to 50, with other certain medical conditions, you can also do it as well. And you can definitely mix and match vaccines, RNA to mRNA to mRNA, Pfizer and Moderna. Vaccine availability, we looked at that this week. We look at it every week. There's plenty of open slots. You'll see it when you see the amount of people that have taken a vaccine this past week. It's not a high number at all, and there's plenty of open vaccines. Okay, so you can just go on vaxfinder.mass.gov and schedule yourself probably this afternoon if you so choose. We did 85 first, second, and booster doses this week. So according to the state's chart, they send this out every week. It's not a very high gain. 27 firsts, 20 seconds, and 38 boosters. I think everybody who wants one's got ample opportunity and have done it if they're going to. And occasionally some people change their mind. As far as variants, okay, we're talking from the far left. In the purple was the Omicron waning away into April. Then you have this BA2 that took over, and then that was getting taken over by the 12, the BA2.1, 2.1. And you see down on the bottom, you have these two other variants, the BA4 and the BA5. That's starting to. Some parts of the country are this rate's higher, so you see more green in this chart. But again, this is the waves of shown in graph form, the waves of the different variants from Omicron. First one, second one, third one, fourth one, fifth one. And they're just, over time, this chart will get more green, less reddish and pink. And this is just the way it's been going. It's just been new variant after new variant of Omicron, all similar in terms of what they're doing. Each one, it can be more spreadable, but they seem to be sort of similar in the disease, at least as far as I can tell, in the severity of it at this point in time. As a recap, case counts remain steady. It's higher than the rest of the county. We're on the high side right now. We'll come down, and there's like an ebb and flow to this. The county's dropped from a high to a medium based on the severity of the disease and so forth. Plenty of vaccine, plenty of testing capability. The second booster doses are available. There are no current mandates other than the select board still has a advisory to wear masks indoors in public buildings, but not a mandate. There are no mandates. I don't know of anybody who's doing mandates at this point in time. But your individual circumstances need to think through whether you need to or not. So that's it for this week. Hopefully get it nothing worse than this particular week, and it just continues. Hopefully it starts to drop off so that we're not on the high side for the county. But that's what I've got for an update, and I will see everybody next week. Thanks.